Hi, this is Vito Bratta,
And I'm Mike Tramp, and we are from
White Lion, and we're here at A&M Recording Studios in Los Angeles.
where we are recording a brand new album titled Main Attraction, due to be out March 18th, 1991.
MXS went to A&M Studios in West Hollywood to talk to Mike Tramp and Vito Bratta as they worked on their fourth album, Main Attraction, with producer Richie Zito.
The whole point of us going into this album and practically taking a whole year off from coming off the big game tour and sort of, mixed emotions and mixed feelings about that album and the whole thing. We sit down specifically to write this album, and Vito and I worked close to a year. Of course, we had some leftover riffs that that Vito spends riding on the road. He spends got good 3 hours and 3 packs of cigarettes before going on stage, and that's always something bound to happen during those 3 hours.
Yeah, sometimes a band, you don't know where you are, and you don't know how the kids perceive you. I'm not sitting in somewhere in a house when kids are playing a record. I don't know how they perceive the band. So we kind of saw reactions to the last record in press, word of mouth, magazine, articles, reviews, and everything. And we finally just realized to each other, like, hey, we thought, kids were into us for a certain thing. That's not what they're into us for. They're into us for the same things that we're into. So why don't we just, like, do what we do? Because that's what the kids seem to like.
There's two reasons why you play music in a rock band. That's the first reason should be for yourself. The second reason should be for your fans, because they're pretty much the ones who buy the tickets to the amusement park. And if nobody's coming into the amusement park, the amusement park is not going to run. So we do take notice that when sort of the response started coming from the fans too. So when we went in to write Main Attraction, Vito and I, we wanted to kick ass.
Yeah, we didn't have, a lot of times, there's the producers. A lot of times you're writing, people keep telling you, you guys are not really an album-type band. You sell singles or whatever. And we don't feel that, but that's, it sticks in your head. So this time on this album, it was like we'd write a song, and as you're writing songs, you come up with, like, different parts, different ideas, and you put them all together, and then when you go into the studio, you start cutting. It's like, yeah, you got 10 minutes worth of parts stuck together. Let's start cutting it, making it into a song. Some of the songs this time we were like, no, let's leave all those pieces next to each other. Like a few of the songs you've heard, like Lights and Thunder, there'd be parts right in the middle of the song that a whole completely different song, but it was like, what the hell? Why do we have to worry about an 8.5-minute song? Like, what's it going to be, a single? Who cares? If it's a single, let them play it full 8 minutes, or don't play it at all. We weren't so worried, like, oh, it's too long.
But also in the whole thing, I mean, it is actually what we're influenced by. I mean, we're not influenced by, modern music. I'm talking about the 80s, of course. I mean, we all come from, the bandwagon who's, affected by Hendrix, like Led Zeppelin, Aerosmith, Queen, whoever we come from and wherever we come from.
A lot of bands back then, they didn't worry about that.
It's just, we want to, and, we did it on Fight to Survive. We had songs like Fight to Survive in the city. There was longer epics. And we did it again on Pride with Lady of the Valley and stuff like that. We wanted to do it on Big Game with Cry for Freedom, stuff like that. We just didn't really finish what we set out to start. So therefore this time, this is what we do. That's why when Vito says this is the truest White Line album, that is really the combination of what we are. We do the extreme songs, and then we do the songs sort of like Wait and stuff like that, which is the other part of us. And whatever you play, that is what we stand behind. And we're musicians after all.
Yeah, as a kid, I'd buy like a Rush album. It'd be like an entire side is one song. Back then, you could do that. So why has that changed? I don't know.
I'm Richie Zito, currently producing White Line's new record. trying to dress for the occasion. They wanted to make a heavier record this time, so I'm trying to wear these moshing boots.
The lead in the boot wouldn't hurt.
A little lead in the booter.
It was time for a change of pace, you know, production-wise, but nothing personal against them, you know. And plus we were becoming more and more songwriters as the years go by. And Richie Zito is more of a songwriter type person than Michael Wagner is.
And I got to know them through Cheap Trick. They were all kind of living at the same apartment complex where all the rock bands stay here in L.A. called the Oakwood. Give them a little plug. And I got to know them first, actually, as friends before we started making a record together. And we got along pretty well, and we wanted to make a rock and roll record, a heavier record than the last one, and I think we did it.
That it wasn't really a matter for somebody to come in and produce. What are you going to produce? The band is there. It was all the small ideas, the basic of the band, the heavy guitar, the drums, the bass, and the vocal was going to be there one way or another. So if there's a little string effect coming in from the left and there's a tambourine in the right, you know, that's what we were open to and stuff like that. And then again, when you work with somebody who can pick up a guitar or who come in the next day and he's singing your song, you do, you know, have respect for that, and you just say, okay. So when the guys say, why don't you try to do a la 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 instead of dee 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 dee? Not that I did that. It's just you say, okay, I'll give it a try. Just, oh, what do you mean?
But it is all band, you know, has nothing to do with it. The only people who get affected by producing stuff is the guy on the street who's just naive and he gets signed because he's got a talent. It's like, well, I don't know what to do. Leave it up. Okay, leave it up to your producer.
You know, the producer doesn't bring the rock and roll to the record. I mean, the artist, if they're a more rockin' band, or if their approach is a harder approach or a less mature approach, that's what really makes the difference. The producer's role there's numbers of producers who have done, you know, so many different kinds of artists. So, yeah, I think we do get pigeonholed.
You can hear keyboards on a new White Line album. And a lot of people I know are going to say, oh, see, they got the guy who did Hard, Cheap Trick, now there's keyboards on the record. That came from me and Mike, you know? So it's not, didn't come from an outside source. So it's always the band.
I'm a headbanger. I grew up, you know, listening to, like, Led Zeppelin and that kind of stuff, so rock and roll is kind of close to my heart. Well, I think Vito felt that on his last record. He used maybe a little too much clean guitar for, you know, sort of...
Are you recording, man?
Yeah. A little too much clean guitar, maybe, and it was just a little too tidy, I think, overall, he felt. So this time we wanted to make a much harder record. I mean, there's definitely some singles and some songs that we think are sort of real radio-oriented songs, but in addition, we really wanted some real balls on this record. I think we have it, too.
Eat shit. Fuck you. You're an asshole.
When the children cry, let know you try. When the children...
We can't use that.
When the Children Cry was, nobody wanted to release that song, first of all. It was really Vito and I who just felt that that song, you know, was the other part of White Line. And when we released it, it's just, you know, it was just a universal song. I mean, it's like Love of My Life. You know, it's like, it doesn't appeal to a certain crowd. It had a very serious lyric without being like, you said, oh, I can't listen to this. It'll really put me in a bad mood.
I don't think there was ever talk of trying to follow it up, ever. Because I also came from that thing of like, you know, there's bands who would do that. Oh, we got to follow this up, and they come out with something similar. Yeah, I always believed that there was only one Stairway to Heaven. That Mötley Crüe Skid Row thing was a tight package. All of those road crews, the soundmen, lightmen, bands, they were together all through Europe. Meanwhile, we were right behind them on our own tour. And then the night they says, well, we're going to put White Line on this show too. And we were put right in the middle. We split up that family. So everybody backstage was going, you know, looking at us with the attitude of like, oh, geez, they're on the show. You know, nobody wanted to help us at all. It was like we invaded their little family of Mötley Crüe and Skid Row. Like we split them up.
We had planned 8, 9 shows in England, and we had had a good reception first time we came to England, did the 3 marquee shows, and regardless to what a big game had gotten of reviews, the fans were still there to see us. So when we suddenly got a phone call halfway through the European tour, say, Mötley and Skids are playing exactly the days you were playing there and there, we were thinking that maybe that it sounded really damn good on the phone. When it came to real stuff, it just wasn't that. It's not that we're afraid of anything. I hear gonna sit and cry, you know, we really, you know, because, you know, we'll match with anybody, anytime. It's just our show was just not, that tour was not made for us just to go in and do 50 minutes.
We'll play any place. I mean, you just give us a plane ticket, we'll go. For years, people say, how come you're not coming to Europe? It was like, because nobody brings us over there. You know, we were broke. We couldn't even afford car fare to go to each other's house. You know, we couldn't go to Europe. So they give us a plane ticket, play Russia. I don't care. I'll play anywhere.
The States is our home, and it doesn't matter the name of the town or the country or the language. You know, this is where we want to be. This is, after all, when all the bull is gone and all the smoke is down, we are a rock band who stands on the stage. That is what we do, number one.